Mining sits at the foundation of Bitcoin. Initially, the people who were running the Bitcoin software and trying to win in this Bitcoin mining race were the sort of fanatics who had fallen in love with this idea. Over time, Bitcoin mining has essentially become a specialized profession available to people who have some ability to set up these installations around the world. And so mining has increasingly become this specialized profession. That's become something of a problem because the design of the Bitcoin software gives decision-making power to the miners. And whatever software they choose to run, that becomes the software and the rules for essentially the whole network. So these miners around the world have a sort of voting power over what the Bitcoin software and what Bitcoin itself looks like.
So when Satoshi Nakamoto came up with it, the real key question is how do you get these 21 million out there? If he all gave it to himself, he will have a huge burden who he gives it to, or he can give it to the men of the world, or to the women, or the children, or to the Americans, or to the poor people in Africa, or the starving people, or to the communists. Who do you choose to give the 21 million? So the only fair way he came up with was to give it for free to whoever wants it.
The miner's job is to take all of the valid transactions that they see, and then they gather up these transactions in what are called blocks, and then they perform this busy work, and they're kind of in a race against all the other miners to have the privilege of being the canonical record of the transactions that happened. If they win that race, then there's a very special transaction at the beginning of every single block that awards them brand new Bitcoins.
As Bitcoin price rises, it incentivizes somebody to turn on mining equipment somewhere in the world. Then that adds this processing power to the network, which is seen by the system. And so the system makes an adjustment to make it harder to produce Bitcoin. In my same power footprint here, I produce essentially less and less Bitcoin over time, but the value of each Bitcoin rises.
So we've reached a point where the determining factors in who can profitably mine Bitcoins is access to cheap computer hardware and access to cheap electricity. And right now, the place where those two things are the easiest to find are China. And so you have essentially 2/3 to 3/4 of all of the Bitcoins being mined in the world going to these mining installations around China.
大概有15个人左右在我们就是公司工作，他们主要的工作是对于机器的照看，是的，他们在就是电站里面就是生活居住。因为就是说。现在电价比较低廉的这个地方是相对于来说比较偏远的一个地方，而不是说是一种大城市里面。所以说，大家对于真正挖矿的所在地，就是说不是特别了解，有这方面的考虑。因为就是说，因为你有竞争嘛，中国的那种挖矿这一块的人来说，相对于来说比较多的。所以说，在一个相对于只有自己的地方，能享受这种低廉电价的那个地方，只想说是自己用， 是这样的。
They essentially, by having the majority of the mining power, they hold all the cards for whose transactions get included. That's another big one. Think about that. Think about the possibility that due to maybe a governmental ruling or something, no transactions originating in the US for Bitcoin should be accepted to any of the blocks in China. That's a very scary, scary concept. It should be extremely scary to the people who've invested in the businesses that are built on the Bitcoin blockchain.
One of the side debates that you also see when you're talking about China is a question within the Bitcoin community about the role that miners play in China and whether or not there should be some sort of concern or some attempt to counteract the growing power of China in the mining space in the Bitcoin blockchain itself. It does raise a very interesting issue around governance models of public blockchain. What do you do in a situation where one particular entity or group of entities acting collectively gain enough power in an open system that they can begin dictating the governance of that open system?
It's something of a test for the philosophy behind this technology. I mean, one of the basic ideas here was that the people working together could create a better system and could create better software than any one startup or entrepreneur could. I mean, this was the idea of communal wisdom. The hive mind would be more successful than anybody working in isolation. It's not at all clear that that software being developed by volunteers all around the world is going to be able to adapt quickly enough to keep up with the existing powers and all the resources that they have to put into this experiment.